Hello again, and welcome to episode 8 of the weekly Sneaky Food Review. Throughout the ages, many foods have been thought to possess special magical, even aphrodisiac powers. But no food has been the focus of more unusual customs and beliefs than today's featured food, the apple. For example, an ancient Greek wanting to propose to a woman had but to toss her an apple. If she caught it, he knew that she had accepted his offer.
Oops, I guess that didn't work.
The apple, which is a member of the rose family, has been an important food crop in both Asia and Europe for thousands of years. Oh, for me? Thank you. I get it. It's a long-stemmed red member of the rose family. As I was saying, the apple has been an important food in both Asia and Europe for a very long time. In fact, it was Alexander the Great who is credited with introducing the first dwarf apple trees to Macedonia, which he brought from Asia around 320 BC. From that time on, cultivation of this amazing fruit tree spread like wildfire to other temperate areas of the world. Here in North America, we have the 17th century colonists to thank for introducing the apple and for planting the first apple orchard in Boston in 1625. Prior to this, the only apples available to us were the native crab apples. Great for making jelly, not so tasty for a snack. Today, there are over 7,000 different varieties of apples being grown, making the apple the #1 ranking fruit in the multi-billion-dollar fruit industry. We're all familiar with the old saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. But what exactly is it about apples that is so beneficial to our health? Apples are extremely rich sources of antioxidants, phytonutrients, and fiber. Together, these substances work to protect us from various health problems. Now, first of all, we know that antioxidants and anti-inflammatories help prevent the development of cardiovascular disease. They work to decrease the accumulation of fats in our blood vessels and arteries, thereby preventing the risk of heart attacks and strokes. Now, these antioxidants are mainly concentrated in the skins and the flesh just below the skin of the apple, and they are primarily quercetin, epicatechin, and anthocyanins. Now, quercetin, as well as being an antioxidant, is also a powerful anti-inflammatory. And as we've seen in previous videos, antioxidants together with anti-inflammatories are very beneficial in preventing the development of various forms of cancer, including colon and breast cancer, but especially lung cancer in the case of apples. These nutrients are also very helpful in different areas of lung health, including decreasing the risk of developing asthma. Now, we should not overlook the amazing fiber content in apples either. Apples are rich sources of both soluble and insoluble fiber like pectin. Pectin is very beneficial for the growth of healthy microflora in the gut, and insoluble fiber provides bulk, which helps cleanse the colon and keeps the digestive process functioning properly. These fibers are also very important for reducing and regulating blood sugar levels, which means that they help prevent type 2 diabetes. They go about doing this by reducing the rate at which carbohydrates are digested and then glucose is absorbed into the bloodstream. So I don't know about you, but I could probably talk at length about the benefits of apples, but I think this list alone is probably enough to get you wanting to start snacking a little bit more on this amazing fruit. With so many varieties to choose from, how do you know which type of apples to use for what? Well, how you plan on using the apples will dictate to a degree the variety you choose. Now, if you're planning on having a nice, fresh, crisp, juicy apple to snack on, or maybe chop and add to a salad or your morning porridge, you might want to think about trying varieties like Ambrosia, Fuji, Braeburn, either golden or a red delicious, maybe a royal gala, or even a pink lady. But if making applesauce is what you had in mind, then you might want to think about choosing a variety that is softer in texture and breaks down more easily in cooking. So you could think about something like a Macintosh or even a Spartan would work well in this case. If otherwise you're thinking of using your apples to bake something sweet and yummy like an apple pie or a crumble or even a cake, then you want to try to choose a tart cooking apple that's going to retain its texture during cooking. And the best varieties for these purposes are either Gravenstein, Pippins, or Granny Smith. Whatever variety you choose, make sure to select fruit that is richly colored, firm, and free from bruises and blemishes. Bruised apples begin to release ethylene gas in excessive amounts, and this will cause any other produce stored with your apples to break down more quickly. As the saying goes, it only takes one bad apple to spoil the lot. Apples stored properly in the vegetable crisper of your fridge and carefully handled can keep for between 2 to 4 months. Okay, so now it's time to start making something delicious with all of these apples I've been talking about. Now I have to say I have been inspired by the recent unseasonal amount of snowfall we've been receiving here in the Comox Valley. And because of that, I thought I really feel like something warm, sweet, and heartwarming. And so today we are going to be making an upside down apple gingerbread cake. Now this recipe is what I call a gluten-free, the healthy way cake. And what that means is that you're not going to find any overly refined starches, sugars, or any other unusual and hard to pronounce ingredients in this dish. What you may find are some ingredients that are new to you, but they're still healthful. So let's get baking. To prepare today's recipe, you're going to need one 9-inch round cake pan, greased and then lined with parchment paper, 4 large Granny Smith apples, peeled and sliced, 2 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of coconut sugar, a half a cup of either ground walnuts or ground pecans, a half a cup of coconut flour, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 tablespoon of ground ginger, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, and 1/4 teaspoon each of ground clove and salt. You're also going to need 3 large fresh medjool type dates, 15 drops of liquid stevia, 1/2 cup of unsulfured molasses, 3 eggs, a half a cup of water, 1/3 cup coconut oil, and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. So we're going to start by sauteing our apples. So I've added the 2 tablespoons of butter to a hot skillet set over medium-high heat. We just want this to melt and start bubbling. So we want to cook our apples for about 2 to 3 minutes on each side. So what I'm going to do is cook them stirring for about 5 minutes total, just to get them somewhat tender and a little bit brown. So now we're just about halfway done, so I'm going to add the coconut sugar. We're just going to stir that till it's completely dissolved and keep cooking our apples. So with our sugar completely dissolved, our apples are just slightly tender. These are ready, so we're going to remove them from the heat and start preparing our cake batter. Okay, so to prepare our cake batter, the first thing we want to do is add 2 tablespoons of boiled water to our dates. This is going to help soften the dates so that we can puree them afterwards. And to that, I'm going to add 15 drops of liquid concentrated stevia. Now, stevia comes from a South American shrub. It's about 200 to 300 times sweeter than sugar, but it's not related to sugar, so it doesn't have any adverse effects on blood sugar levels. So we're just going to set that aside for about 5 minutes while we start mixing together our dry ingredients. So in a large bowl, we want to combine our ground pecans, our coconut flour, our spices and salt, and our baking powder. And just whisk that together until it's nicely combined. And then set that aside. Now to make our date slurry, we're going to add our date and stevia water mixture to a blender cup. And to that, we're going to add our half cup of water that we'd set aside. And you can do this either in a regular stand-up blender or using a hand blender. And then we're just going to puree this until it's a smooth slurry. And it's okay if there's a couple little pieces of date still in there, that's no problem. Those will break down during baking. Okay, so now add your 1/3 cup of coconut oil to a bowl, medium-sized bowl, and to that you're going to add your 1/2 cup of molasses. And then we're just going to use a hand mixer to blend this together. And to this, we're going to add our date slurry. And mix that in. And then we're going to add our eggs. Okay, now the only thing we have left to do is combine our dry and wet ingredients. So I'm going to pour the wet ingredients into the dry. Scrape all of this yumminess out. Now if your coconut oil, it looks like it's curdling, it's not. It's just that it might be a little bit cool, and so it just congeals a little bit. But as soon as this gets combined, that'll all disappear and become nice, smooth, and uniform again. So let's give that a mix with our beater on low. And then the last thing we need to do to our batter is we're going to take that 1 teaspoon of soda that we had, and we need to add 2 tablespoons of boiling water to that, and that's going to give some nice lightness to this cake. And then we'll just mix that right in there. Okay, so that's a great looking batter. You can see how quickly it thickened up. That's because of the coconut flour. It absorbs a lot of moisture, and that's why we had to add that extra 1/2 cup of liquid that may have looked very fluid in the beginning, but you can see it's thickened up very quickly. So now it's time to assemble our cake and get it ready to go into the oven. So the first thing we're going to do is add our nice sauteed apples, caramel apples, to our pan. Try to scrape out as much of that caramel, sugar, and butter mixture as you can. There we go. So just spread those around evenly. And then to that, we're going to add our batter on top. Okay, and that's just about ready to go into the oven. So we want to bake our cake in a preheated oven at 350 degrees for 25 minutes, and then we're going to lower the temperature to 325 for an additional 15 to 20 minutes. Now you're going to know that your cake is done when you insert a skewer into the center and it comes out clean, or when you press it in the middle and you get a little bit of spring back on the top of your cake. But it's going to smell good before it's ready, and then we'll be ready to pull it out. So once your cake is done, you want to remove it from the oven, place it on a cooling rack, and let it sit for about ½ an hour. Then you can use a palette knife or other knife and just rim around the edge of the cake. Carefully remove my pan, and then just peel back our parchment paper. And if any of your apples have come out of place, you can just put them right back where they belong. Make that look all. And there you have this week's special dessert. It's a gluten-free, warm, upside-down apple gingerbread cake. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Weekly Sneaky Food Review. And if you're thinking of giving this dessert a go, you can find this recipe as well as all of our other recipes at chewtolive.com. For those of you that have been watching and enjoying our weekly videos, please continue sharing them with your friends. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks as I'm off to help celebrate my dad's 80th birthday this week. See you next time.